Hi guys, Mehrnush here from Ross IELTS Academy. I'm here today to solve a very big problem in your IELTS writing. The thing is that when you plan to take the test, you find yourself struggling to write essays, letters, or factual reports, but reading a lot and writing every day without having an idea of the criteria based on which you'll be evaluated will get you nowhere. You should exactly know what you're expected to do because the examiner won't judge you based on his or her general idea. All the examiners have a band descriptors based on which your score will be given. Do you need to use collocations? What grammatical structure should you apply? How about the paragraphing or the ideas that you should develop? Can you go off the topic if you don't have information about the given question? Once you get to know about these criteria, you'll get the answer to these questions, seeing how differently you look at the writing tasks. In this video, I will teach you all about Task 2, writing a structure, and the criteria in detail. So, make sure to watch it carefully and take notes. After you got some practice, you can use our writing correction service visiting our website, www.rossielts.com. You'll send us your writings and the examiner gives you written and video feedback based on the criteria, showing you the techniques you can apply to get your targeted score in a very short time. Oh, by the way, we have launched our official immigration office to help you guys with all the information you need to apply to the universities or live abroad. You can find the link to it in the video description. Let's now get started. In this video, we want to talk about IELTS Writing Task 2. As you know, IELTS writing is in two different formats, academic and general, and both modules consist of two tasks, Task 1 and Task 2. The overall writing will take 1 hour, 20 minutes for Task 1 and 40 minutes for Task 2. As this video is focused on Task 2, let's dig in. In Task 2, you will be asked to write an essay in 40 minutes. This task should be written in at least 250 words and you will face different question types. Your overall band score in IELTS writing will be out of 9. But let's see based on what criteria you get that score. Okay, here we have IELTS Task 2 writing band descriptors based on which you will be evaluated. As you can see in the table, your writing task 1 or 2 will be evaluated based on 4 criteria, and for each one, you will get from 0 to 9. An average of all will make your overall writing score. The criteria are, first of all, your task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range, and accuracy. Now, let's zoom in on each. The first criteria is task achievement or task response. In this criteria, the type of response that you write for the essay's given question type is determined. So, what can we do to get a high score in this criteria? First of all, read the question very carefully and give a relevant, related, and developed answer to it using explanations and examples. This is very important, and one of the biggest mistakes many candidates make is that because they are in a rush to start writing the tasks as they don't want to lose their limited time, they don't read the question very carefully. While you need to leave yourself like 3 minutes in the beginning of the writing task to read the question and then think about the ideas you want to develop. You always need to have a plan. The second thing is to be mindful that you shouldn't overgeneralize and you must give a specific detailed answer to the question. This means that you should be clear with your ideas. If you're giving your personal idea, you should make the examiner understand this is your idea. Or if this is an example, you should use the correct expressions to show that. The third thing you should do is to avoid going off the topic in writing, for which you will lose mark here. Going off the topic means that if you faced an unfamiliar question that you didn't have information about, you can elaborate on a close topic to that just to have given an answer. In the speaking part, you can go off the topic. That is actually a strategy you can apply in the speaking. But in the writing task, you should stick to the question. The next thing you should do, as I mentioned earlier, you are supposed to write at least 250 words for task 2. So, be careful with the word count as well. You can write more, but if you write less, you will be marked down in this criteria. See guys, paying attention to the points I just mentioned will mark you up in the first criteria, task response. Now the second criteria, your coherence and cohesion. In this criteria, your information organization is important. It means that all the ideas that you talk about throughout your essay should be coherent and they should have a logical order. Besides, your paragraphing skills is also evaluated here. This means that you should exactly know what question type you're dealing with and then choose the correct paragraph structure for that. In Task 2 essays, you may face different question types, and the paragraph structure for each is different. The number of paragraphs is also taken into consideration, so dividing your essay into more or less paragraphs might lower your score. If you still don't know about these question types and the way to deal with them, use our writing course, which can be found on our website. That is the answer to all your questions. The next thing in this criteria is how you use the proper lexical devices, connectors and conjunctions. You shouldn't only use and, so, but, because. You can use some better alternatives for them, like besides, furthermore, in addition, however, therefore, unless, unlike, nevertheless, nonetheless, on one hand, on the other hand, and etc. This way, you will also mark up in grammatical range and accuracy. Why? Because you're making some more complex structures. Besides, your writing should be clear and easy to understand. The ideas should be developed in a logical way, not only within a paragraph, but also throughout the whole text. So, what can we do to get a high score in this criteria? First of all, express your main idea very clearly in the introduction paragraph, which is actually the first paragraph. This paragraph is the one in which you plan your whole essay, so don't get into any details. Leave it to the next two paragraphs, your body paragraphs. The second thing you should do is to follow the 3 magic sentences rule in the 2 body paragraphs, which is the topic sentence first, the explanation, and then examples. The third thing you should do is to leave one space between each paragraph in a clear manner so that the examiner can easily identify it. If you're good at typing, taking the computer-based IELTS would be a good choice. It's all up to you. Now talking about the third criteria, your lexical resource. In this criteria, you should use a sufficient range of vocabulary. This means that you should not be limited to basic words and there should be some lexical items. One word or a group of words together by lexical item. And collocations in your writing. Besides, you shouldn't use wrong words or very informal language. It is always more important to be error-free than to use the vocabulary that you're not 100% sure about. The second thing you should do is to have proper spelling in your writing. Spelling means how you write a word. As you write quickly, in order to finish this task in 40 minutes, you may misspell a word. So, always leave yourself enough time at the end of the writing to revise the essay that you have written for the possible mistakes that you might have made. So, what can we do to get a high score in this criteria? First of all, don't use the same word over again. Instead, think of some synonyms or a paraphrase form of the word. As I mentioned earlier, there should be a range in your vocabulary. The second thing you should do is that if you're not 100% sure about the words that you're using, don't use them whatsoever. This is because even if you have used many high-level advanced words, but they are not used correctly in the sentence, you will lose mark. The third thing is to avoid using fancy words and try to use the words in their correct place. This is because you may be using a word that you had heard a few times, but you don't know if this is really used this way. So what's the solution? Don't use it. Replace it with a simpler but correct one. And the last thing you should do is to watch for the spelling of the words, just like I mentioned before. And finally, the last criteria, the fourth one, your grammatical range and accuracy. In this criteria, first of all, it is important to use the correct sentence structures and proper tenses. Some candidates only use simple tenses, but you should use more like present perfect continuous, used to, future tenses, and etc. Besides, be careful with your grammar mistakes. Your writing should be error-free. Secondly, use the right punctuation. Depending on your sentence and the words that you have applied in it, you may need different punctuation marks, like for example, full stop, comma, semicolon, question mark, and etc. There are 2 detailed videos on our YouTube channel about punctuation marks. Make sure to watch them very carefully. So, what can we do to get a higher score in this criteria? First of all, you should know that 70% of your text should be error-free to get over 6 in this criteria. The key to this is to only use the grammar and vocabulary that you are totally sure about. Secondly, try to use complex grammatical structures. By complex, I mean that you have got to avoid using one-clause sentences only. You can just link up your simple structures using linkers, conjunctions, or relative pronouns. For example, instead of saying, "My name is Mernoush, I am an IELTS instructor," I say, "My name is Mernoush and I am an IELTS instructor." However, you shouldn't use too many clauses in your sentence. Based on the band descriptors, someone who uses a combination of simple and complex structures will get a 6 in grammatical range and accuracy, but someone who only uses complex structures will get a 7, and of course above. To know what complex structure is, watch the video of it on our YouTube channel. It's right there. Overall, the most important thing to take into consideration is to be clear with your ideas. You can use our writing course to get familiar with all the question types in Task 1 and Task 2 and the expressions you need to use for each. After you get some practice, write your own writings, send them to us, and it can get corrected by our examiners along with comprehensive written and video feedback. You can find all these services on our website, www.rossielts.com. Thank you very much for watching this video to the end. Stay tuned and see you very soon.